Would you like to make your own Christmas cards but you have no supplies? Today I'm showing you 3 ideas of cards that you can create using the most basic stuff that you have around in your place. And also, they can be used for holidays or winter cards, not necessarily Christmas. I went through my stash and I found scraps of red and green cardstock, different shades, and I just trimmed them down. No, it doesn't really matter the size. You see here in a minute. I folded them in half, and then I'm kind of cutting like an eye shape out of them. I hope that makes sense. And if it's too long, it's okay. You can trim it down later. I think the darker ones I had were the longest, were the tallest, and the lighter colors were a bit smaller. So for the lighter ones, I wanted them to be smaller because they would go in the center, and I just folded them in half and cut kind of an eye shape once again. And then I had two of them. I like to cut it all folded because then you cut, like you spend half of the time cutting. I hope that makes sense. And it's easier. And then I also needed some circles. This is me freehand trying to cut something that resembles a circle. But the color doesn't matter. This is just so we can glue our leaves on top of it and create our poinsettia. The first one's going to be a poinsettia. For the second and third, we're going to use holly and berries. And they're all very easy to make. So you can use your fingers to kind of curl up your petals or your leaves. I believe poinsettias are actually not flowers. So it will be the sections of the leaves. And I am actually using my bone folder. But you could just use your fingers or maybe roll it up against a pencil or a pen, something like that. And I will do that on all of them, even though I'm not showing it on screen. And then I realized they were way too long, so I'm going to cut them shorter. I still want the darker ones to be longer than the lighter ones. And I'm going to use the darker ones kind of first, so they will be in the back. And the lighter ones will be in the center and on top. They will be the ones most visible. So I'm just going to trim them down. You can see there's no measurement. There's nothing here that can actually go wrong, you know. The only thing that I could have done to speed this up would be to actually cut them all together, which you're going to see me doing later with the green ones. I want that curve to be pointing down, to be pointing back. So I'm going to just glue them to the center and kind of lift them up a little bit. You see that once I show you the leaves in a profile, you can see they looks a bit like an S, a letter S shape, and it helps with gluing them down because the one that is kind of flat is the one that I'm adding the glue to the back and placing it down on my circle. And you can see that I'm trimming everything down, and I glued 4 of the slim ones first. Now I'm gonna glue the other 4. They are a bit more rounded. It doesn't really matter the shape either, so use what you have and use your stash. So if you already have a bunch of strips left over in your stash, use those. For now, I am showing you a bit slower and in detail so you can see what I'm doing. It's a lot of repetition, so I'm gonna speed this up a lot quite soon. But it's the same thing. I'm curling up all the leaves, adding a little bit of glue to the bottom, and just holding them for a little bit. Because I'm using liquid glue, sometimes I do have to hold them for a while. For this one poinsettia, I went overboard and I just used too many petals or too many leaves. You don't need these many sections. You will see at the end that mine is very dimensional and it's very chunky. I will probably have to hand deliver this card or make a special envelope for it, like a box envelope as well. You don't need all of that. That's what I'm trying to say. So don't go crazy like me. But it does look very nice. And you can see here already, like I haven't even used all the layers that I'm gonna add. And it's already very, very big. It's also big on the size. So I had to make a 6x6 card base for this one instead of my usual card size just to fit it. And you can calculate that. So if your area, let's say it's 4 inches that you have in your card and you want poinsettia that is 4x4, make sure that the longest leaf that you have is not bigger than 2 inches. So that will help you. Because I didn't measure anything, I made the card base after I had the poinsettia. Also, on this video, you see that the wind is carrying my leaves all the time. I have to craft with the windows open because it's just so crazy hot where I am right now. Um, it's over 30 degrees most days, 30 degrees Celsius. I don't know how many Fahrenheit that is. Um, but it's just too hot and I have to leave the window open. And sometimes the wind will carry all of my paper elements off my table where it is necessary. Now it's getting harder for me to hold those down, so I'm going to use an object to kind of press them and hold them for a little bit until I have them all stuck together. And then I'm going to turn around and I decided to add the green on the bottom. Here you can actually see that I'm going to group them together and cut like 2 or 3 of them at the same time, and that saves a lot of time. I also had way more green leaves than the ones I'm gonna use here. But it's okay. I can save them for a future video for later ideas. So nothing goes to waste. And I'm gonna do exactly the same thing that I did before, except that this time I'm gonna add the glue to the front of my leaf because I'm gonna add it to the back of my poinsettia. You see here in a second. So I'm adding the glue to the front and I'm just adding those leaves to the spaces in between so they will be visible from the front, even a little bit, which is making my poinsettia even bigger than it was at first. For these ones, I have 3 of each color, so I am kind of trying to alternate them and fill the space, but I did start with a pattern of 4 leaves for the red ones. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. No one will see this back. No one will see what's happening here. I'm going to hold this down for a second, give the glue some time to dry. And then I'm going to add some gold baubles, some gold pearls to the center. If you don't have gold bubbles, don't worry. I will show you later what you can use instead. Again, it's stuff that you can find at home and it's easy to create. So for my card base, I'm going to actually give you some tips of something that you can do. I just wanted a white card base, but I'm going to add a tiny bit of detail. I am going to score 3 lines, one beside they are all beside each other, and I'm starting at, I believe, half an inch. So half an inch, I think 1/8 after that, and 1/8 after that. And I'm gonna do it all 4 sides exactly the same. I'm just gonna turn it around and score those 3 lines. And I'm gonna bring it closer to the camera so you can see how it looks. So this is very easy to recreate and you can use them on either side, so debossed or raised, and it will give you 2 different looks as well. It's just a tiny detail. It adds a frame to the card. I always like to have a frame on my cards for some reason. I'm just gonna glue this down. And then, because I never know when to stop adding detail, I'm gonna add more detail to it. Just remember, if you're recreating this at home, instead of the scoring board, if you don't have one, you can use just your ruler and an empty pen. And here's the detail I'm adding. I'm using a gold gel pen and I'm tracing two lines in the spaces in between my raised lines. Also, I'm using it with the pattern raised. You could use it with the pattern recessed. It's up to you, whatever you think it looks better. I do find that I will use it differently on the next card, and I did like it better raised. But you have both options. So you could get a different look just by changing the orientation of your panel. Then I'm just going to glue this down. I don't actually have space for a sentiment on this one, which is not a problem. I can write my sentiment inside, and I just need to hold it down for a little bit until that glue dries. Otherwise, because of all the volume and the movement that I got on those leaves, it's going to pop up. And I'm not going to show the whole thing on camera, but I'm holding it down for a little bit. And like everything that I did so far, I'm adding glue only to the center. Here's a detail, a close-up of what we've done. This is the first card. It's very quick and easy. I love that border. It's very, very fine, but it catches your eye. For the second one, I started with a piece of writing paper, and I'm gonna draw like 3 lines, and it's gonna be like a holly shape, holly leaf shape. And the first one here was too big, so I'm gonna make it slightly smaller. I'm trying to learn from my mistake from the previous one and use a smaller element. And then I'm just gonna cut it down. So you could do this for the first one as well. If you want them all to have the same size, this will help. I have this scrap of green paper from my previous video, I believe the pop-up video, and I'm going to tape it to make sure that it doesn't move. And then I'm going to just start tracing those leaves that I cut the first one. I'm just going to trace around it, leave some space, trace the next one, and I'm going to do the whole space that I have in green. And then I'm gonna cut them around. That's it. This way, they are all going to be the same shape and the same size. Here you have all of them traced, and then I'm just gonna cut inside of those lines. I'm not gonna show you cutting all of those leaves because it's exactly the same thing. But it's just so you can see that it's very quick and easy. The way I'm doing here, again, I'm getting 2 leaves in one go. That saves me a lot of time. And I did have loads of them in the end. So the first option, we are going to use these leaves for the next 2 cards. But the first card I'm going to show you here. I have a card base and a panel. They're kind of off-white, slightly peach. The old cardstock Barely Peach from Spellbinders is exactly this color, but this one I sourced here in Brazil. So I'm gonna start same thing, but this time I'm doing only one line. I'm only embossing one line with my scoreboard, and then this time I'm gonna use it debossed. But I'm gonna add 2 lines of gold gel pen, one to each side of the debossed line. And that's going to give me a cube frame as well. So it's almost the same idea of the first one. It's just a variation, and we're doing a bit less. And I do wipe my ruler in between because I don't want the the gel pen to spread and stain my card. Here's the final result. I'm just going to glue this down onto my card base. And then for this one, I really want to keep this one simple. this is kind of a bonus idea. I really had an idea for the first and the third cards, and this one was kind of an afterthought. So all you have to do, all I'm doing here is adding a sentiment. So you could stamp a sentiment, you could stamp in die cut and pop it up. I always use die cut sentiments. That's my jam. But you could write it if you have nice hand lettering abilities, which I don't. You could write your sentiment and then you just use clusters of 2 or 3 of those holly leaves to kind of frame the sides of your sentiment. That's all we're gonna do. So I'm tracing with my empty pen the center of those holly leaves so I can fold them kind of in the center just to give them a bit of dimension. All these cards are very, very dimensional, but you can see that I'm not really doing much and I'm ending with a lot of dimension. I'm gonna add glue to my sentiment. I did cut it off screen. I do have the titles. I didn't lose them this time. I'm gonna glue them too. And then I'm gonna use 3 of those holly leaves on the right hand side and 2 on the left hand side. For this one, I had pearls, just regular pearls that I buy at my like Euro shop, and I had loads of them in my stash. And I used my red Copic markers to color them white. So if you have white pearls in your stash, you can color them any color that you want with an alcohol marker. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just fly over this very quickly. I want to take the time to apologize for this video going up a little bit later than my usual. I try to post on Wednesdays, but this week it just wasn't possible. This week has been a bit tough. My husband's one of my husband's uncle passed this week, and we were a bit down, I guess. I'm gonna miss him dearly. My husband's family is just a treasure in my life. I absolutely love and adore all of them, and um, it's been tough for the two of us. But there were other things as well. I am trying to buy furniture for my place, so I'm taking time buying furniture and then going there and waiting for it, assembling, putting it where we want it to be. And I also had to wait for stuff that my brother bought. So I ended up not having as much time to finish this video as I would like it to be. Here's the final card. I'm going to move on to the third one. The card base is exactly the same color as the previous one. I also have the extra panel. I'm gonna do almost the same thing. I'm just showing you a few variations, like very tiny variations that can give you kind of a different look in the end. So I'm doing only one line. Again, this time I'm gonna use erased instead of debossed. And I am going to add dashed lines on the inside. So I'm going to make a smaller frame on the inside. This time it's not going to go all the way to the border. A T ruler really helps, but if you don't have a T ruler, a regular ruler would work as well. I do find that in this case, the clear ruler, the plastic clear, helps me because it's easier to see where that debossed or embossed line is and line it up right against it. You can see that I'm not really measuring the distance. I am just going with the flow and it works. So this one looks slightly different from the others as well. It's just a few different ideas so you can see what you like the best. I'm going to glue this down once again. This one, this frame, I am going to add those tiny gold pearls on each one of the 4 corners of my frame as well. Also something different. You don't need to do any of that. And then I'm going to do a wreath for this card. And This one I'm going to use it in portrait orientation. The previous one was landscape. So I like to show you different ideas, different variations, because you can see like how much you can do just by changing up a few details here and there. If you have Nuvo drops, you could also use those instead. Now here I'm speeding this up because you've seen me doing this on the previous card. I was just scoring and folding those leaves in the center. And now I'm going to place 4 of them kind of like a square. And then I'm going to come with the rest and fill the spaces in between. That's kind of how I went about with this one. I do feel like if I had used a 5x7 card base, I would have used more leaves. I ended up not having that much space because I wanted it to fit the wreath to fit inside of that frame. So I didn't have that much space to play with. If I had used a 5x7 card base, it would have been better. But I made it work. So it looks a bit square instead of a circle. But you get the gist, you get the idea. I think the brain kind of reads that it is supposed to be a wreath. Like before, I'm going to add glue to the bottom back of that leaf and then put it down, and the wind is going to start spreading everything that I did. But it's okay, we fix it. Placing it not center, it's more towards the top because I thought I was going to put my sentiment in the bottom, and I didn't. In the end, I am just hiding my leaves from the wind, folks. I am so sorry. It looks silly, but that's what I was doing. It didn't work. So I'm just gluing one end of those leaves because I like to move them around and tuck stuff underneath them. And then I'm going to come with one idea that it's something that I guarantee you can get it done at home. You could use regular red cardstock, but I used glitter cardstock. I showed this to you in a previous video. I'm going to have those videos linked in the information box if you want to watch the other videos from this holiday card series. Also, I'm going to link the previous holiday card series because I have very great ideas of basic things that you can create using what you have at home as well. And then you can just use a paper puncher or a paper piercer, like the ones that do 2 holes at the same time or 4 holes, and get a bunch of them done and glue them as your berries. For the sentiments, I used a stamped sentiment, but if you have access to a printer, you could create a file on Word or a PDF file with a bunch of sentiments and just go and print them all together somewhere. Just trim them down into strips, and you will have sentiments that you can use for all your Christmas cards. And you can also customize them and write whatever you want. You can write something that it's like an inner joke that you're going to send to a friend of yours that only they will understand. Here's the final result. I do apologize for my voice. I'm still a bit sick. I hope you like these ideas. Next week, our video will be using inspiration from social media to create our next cards. I hope you like them. Create something beautiful today. Happy crafting. See you next week.